Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and we're continuing our review series today for Madness at the Darkmoon Faire, taking a look at priest cards this time around in both Standard and Wild. And again, we rate on a 5-star basis, 5-star being like an absolute meta-defining, insanely good card, and 1-star just basically a card you're never going to put in your ladder deck. And right now, Priest in Standard is basically, you have like Dragon Priest, where you're playing like Raise Dead, Cobalt Spellkin, getting all the 1-mana spells over and over. And you have like Galakrond Priest, there's Highlander Priest, but most of it's all based around value generation with like some steel stuff thrown in, whether it be like Cabal Acolyte, Cabal Shadow Priest, that kind of stuff. In Wild, Reno Priest is the absolute freaking nuts right now. It's the best deck in Wild, and that's basically all you see from Priest. Sometimes you queue into like a combo Inner Fire Priest. Sometimes you'll queue into a big Priest, but pretty much you're playing Wild, it's Reno Priest. So let's see what these cards will do, whether it'll add to those archetypes or create some of their new ones. Let's take a look at the cards. So first we have Insight. 2-mana spell. It draws a minion, corrupt, reduced its cost by 2. So, right away, it's card draw for Priest. Priest has very little card draw, and this is a tutor. You can draw a minion, and if it's corrupted, it specifically will reduce its cost by 2. Is that particularly good? I don't think so. 2-mana draw card's not great. The mana cheat aspect of it, it's not phenomenal. It's okay. But overall, I don't think you're running this card. I think you're just getting it randomly from like a Sethic, a Renew, or one of the other created by cards we'll talk about later. But I don't think it's anything particularly amazing. But you could try and run it in like some weird combo deck, build around it a little bit like that. But overall, can't really see it for Standard. I'm going to give it a 2 there. In Wild, I mean, you have some consideration for it. Drawing minions in Wild is even more powerful. You're more likely to hit something like a Zephrys, a Polkelt, a Raza, Kazakis, things like that. But again, I think you'd rather just play a Novice Engineer than play an Insight, because it's better with like some other synergies. I think it's just too slow an option, and again, the mana cheat aspect of it is pretty irrelevant. And again, I don't think this is creating some new combo deck in Wild either. So I'm going to give it a 2 there. Again, it's not too bad, it's just not really going to make the cut. We have Fairground Fool. This is a 3-mana 4/3 minion with Taunt. We've seen a 3-mana 4/3 neutral Taunt before, but this one's a little different, as it has Corrupt, gain +4 health, so it's like a fully healed Injured Blade Master. 3-mana 4/7 with Taunt. That's pretty good, but the synergies with this card in Standard aren't really there. You can get like an annoyingly big Taunt, I suppose, but you're not really doing like Inner Fire stuff. You're not really wanting to resurrect this, because I guess you would resurrect the Corrupt version, which would be okay. But overall, it's just kind of slow, kind of just whatever. I don't see it as much of anything other than an arena card, potentially, because you play it on curve. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like a ladder card at all to me. Even Corrupted. I mean, the effect's okay. It's like the Archmage with Taunt card for 3 mana. But it's just not enough. Stats rarely matters. So I'm going to give it a 1 in Standard. In a Wild, you're never playing this. Literally ever. Like, where are you going to put this? Inner Fire Priest? It's too slow. You're just going to slam Deathlord and hope for the best. So I'm going to give it a 1 in both formats. Just nothing more than a pack filler, in my opinion. Next, we have Goon, the Blood God. It's an 8-mana 8/8 legendary minion Battlecry. Draw 2 cards. They cost health instead of mana. Priest, as I mentioned, lacks card draw in Standard. Well, this card helps a lot. Not only is it card draw, a giant body, but it also lets you mana cheat, potentially cheating out either like a big minion, Galakrond, or, you know, just draw the spell and save it, or whatever it is. It's not a big deal. This is just going to be auto-include, I'm pretty sure, in like every Priest deck in Standard. It's just a big body, draw, really solid. It does incredible stuff. And yeah, you can keep rezzing this with like Raise Dead and cheating out more stuff. Like, it's just super, super good. I'm going to give it a 5 stars in Standard. I don't see what Priest deck would not want to run this, other than like you're in the mirror and you don't want to fatigue, but even then it's usually a tempo matchup. So yeah, I'm giving this 5 in Standard. In Wild, I mean, we have Reno Priest, right? That's the only deck that I could see running this. You're not running this in Gamba Priest. You're not running this in Big Priest. You know, does it fit into there? And there is an argument for it. You can play Polkelt, and then you draw Goon and you play it, and that gets you your Anduin, your Psychic Scream, or say you drew Anduin first, then you would draw Psychic Scream and Reno, and you could potentially just cheat out Reno and save your butt in a in a bind as long as you have 6 or 7 health. I don't think you play it on 6 health. So there's an argument for that, but then there's also the argument that you just want to draw Anduin. You just want to draw Scream. You don't want to disrupt Polkelt. And that's literally the only argument you're going to have. You're never cutting Polkelt from that deck. It is incredibly good. And yeah, does Goon create its own archetype in Wild? I don't think so. I think it's literally going to be, are you running it in Reno Priest or not? And I think there's going to be experimentation with it. There's consideration for it. I'm going to lean towards maybe it's worth it, because not only do you Polkelt and then you get to draw quicker to your Raza and all that stuff because of this, it curves into that. I'm going to give it a 3 for that reason, but I'm giving it a skeptical 3 because it could also just not be worth disrupting it for exactly the negatives I have mentioned. Next, we have Blood of Goon, 9-mana, 8/8 elemental, taunt at the end of your turn. Summon a 5/5 copy of a minion in your deck, so it's Shadow Essence, so big priest card. In 2020, we got another one. It's what everybody wanted, right? Yeah, I saw a lot of people puking on Twitter over this, but I don't think this is bringing Big Priest back to Standard. It's way too slow. There's not enough support for this whatsoever in Standard. I just can't see it. So I'm going to give it a 2 in Standard. There's just not enough to make Big Priest work. You have like Mass Resurrection. You don't have a good way of cheating that's out. Yes, there's that 8-mana spell we're going to review next, but that spell ain't that great. And it's really slow. I can't see it happening. But of course, in Wild, we all know Big Priest is a deck there. It's not great. It's very fringe at the moment. There's some stuff going on that might bring it back to relevance, and this card's part of that. You Shadow Essence out this card. That's insane because it'll Shadow Essence out another card at the same time. It's like a second high roll of a Yasharaj, right? You Essence in Yasharaj. It's insane. Essencing into this is incredible as well. And then it can spiral out of control if you don't remove it, of course, because this is a constant effect. I think that this goes into Big Priest. I can't see it not. Yes, it's not like Obsidian Statue where you're getting like lifesteal and it has the death rattle of killing stuff, but it's a snowball minion that you can't ignore and it has taunt. So I'm going to give it a 3 for Wild, mainly because I do see Big Priest making a little bit of a comeback, especially with the card we'll talk about in a little bit. This is not that card, by the way. Idol of Yasharaj, 8-mana spell. Summon a 10/10 copy of a minion in your deck. This card is incredibly slow. You can't justify this in a Big Priest or a big deck in Standard at the current moment. It's too slow. It's 8 mana. Yes, you get a 10/10. Yes, you can get like a big taunt, like big cartoon, whatever, but it ain't worth it. You're going to die to so much stuff. It's not going to work. It's going to work at like the greedy, bad, like dumpster ranks. You'll find it there and you'll get upset about it because Priest is puke. But at like a competitive level, I can't see it. I'm going to give it a 1. In Wild, it's too slow. You have Shadow Essence. You have better stuff. If you're waiting for your high roll to come on like turn 8 or 7, if you discount this, it's just not good enough. So I'm going to give it a 2 in Wild because there is more possibility there, because there is more stuff going on with Big Priest. But again, I don't think you're putting it there at all. Next, we have Nasmani, a Bloodweaver. It's a 3-mana 2/5 minion. After you cast a spell, reduce the cost of a random card in your hand by 1. So we got random and mana cheat. Yep, we got random and mana cheat. Anyways, this card is kind of insane. There are a ton of cheap spells in Priest right now that are very high value. I mean, the decks are all built around 1-mana spells right now. And you play this with a bunch of those, or if they're discounted by a card we'll talk about in a second, you can pop off and do some incredible stuff, cheat out some ridiculous things. You might be able to create a combo deck potentially. Who knows? The sky's the limit with this card. It's relatively cheap, and the constant like snowball reduction of cards can just be ridiculous, creating absurd amount of mana cheat that can break the game in the way we've seen with like Sorcerer's Apprentice. This card is actually terrifying to me. It's potentially game-breaking if the right combination of cards are found, and especially with all the new draw going to Priest. I'm going to give this a 4 to 5 in Standard. I think this is going to find a home and do some just absolute degenerate things. In Wild, I could see this card creating almost its own new archetype of like a Mind Blast, Prophet Velen, Malagos type of deck. There's so many cheap spells. Priest has more 0-mana spells, I believe, than any other class. And they have other spells that can create spells like Renew and all that kind of stuff. You just get a bunch of cards like that in hand, you discount them, and then you have like a really cheap Mali, a really cheap Prophet Velen. You can just Mind Blast someone and obliterate them. Is there the draw and sustain to substantiate this? Would you rather play Reno Priest? Probably, but this could be a whole new archetype. And maybe just throw this into Reno Priest. I don't know, but I'm going to give it a 3 in Wild. There's some potential here, and this could be a very game-breaking card. Don't sleep on this one. One of the big reasons for that is this card, Palm Reading. 3 mana spell, discover a spell, reduce the cost of spells in your hand by 1. Again, random and mana cheat, all in one card. What could possibly go wrong? So, yeah, this card's going to be auto-include in Standard as well. I'm giving it 5 straight out the gate. Discovering a spell is good, but reducing the cost of your spells in hand by 1 can be ridiculous. This can Palm Reading into Renew, There are so many potential ways for this to be just ridiculous. And it doesn't even have to be ridiculous. It could just be value and mana cheat, and that's just really good. This card's nuts. It's a 5-star for me in Standard. In Wild, it's also really good. It can cheat out your Psychic Screen, your Mass Hysteria, all that stuff in Reno Priest, which is valuable. You get more value with discovering a spell. That's really good. But I think it might actually be even better in a deck like Big Priest, where you discount Shadow Essence, a Spellstone, a Resurrect effect, things like that. That's incredibly powerful. And one of the main reasons Big Priest is weak is it's too slow. Palm Reading takes care of that. You can Shadow Visions Palm Reading. You can play a lot of them, discount, heavily cheat out stuff. Big Priest, I think, is back in Wild. I think it might be back. So I'm giving this a 4 in Wild because it fits into multiple archetypes. It's very strong, and I have a feeling that Big Priest might be coming back, and I really don't want it to come back, but whatever. Next, we have Auspicious Spirits, 4 mana spell, summon a random 4-cost minion, corrupt, summon a 7-cost minion instead. What you're going to want to do when you open this card in a pack is disenchant it, because random 4-cost minions suck, random 7-cost minions suck. You're not going to waste your time on this card in Standard or Wild. I can't see why you're going to play this card. Yes, you can cheat out a 7-drop on 5, I suppose, but 7-drops suck. They're not 8-drops. If it was an 8-drop, I might be on board for this card. 8-drops are really good, but as it stands, you can hit like a Bran. There's 4/4s, there's 5/5s. There's a lot of Battlecry minis at 7. It's just not good. This is 1 for Standard and Wild. Just stay away. Not a good card. Next, we have the Nameless one, Priest Legendary Minion, 4 mana 4/4, Battlecry. Choose a minion, friendly or enemy, become a 4/4 copy of it and silence it. So if you get like a Tyrion, you'll have Divine Shield and you get the Death Rattle, but you'll silence the minion and it's just a 6/6. So this card's decent. It's like one of the best silence effects ever made. Is it something you're going to want to hard run in your Priest deck? In Standard, probably. There's a good amount of high-value stuff you can silence, especially if, like, Libram Paladin continues to be a big presence on ladder. It's pretty good against that. It's just really weak against aggro decks. Like, anything that just, like, slams tokens and that stuff. This is just a 4-mana 4/4 against that, and that's really bad. So there is a downside to it. People are, like, only looking at, like, why this card would be really good. I feel like it's a card that really helps out its good matchups, but doesn't really address any of its weaknesses in any of its bad matchups, but I see it as a potentially strong card that can see play in Standard. I'll give it a 3. In Wild, I don't see it fitting into any archetype. Combo Priest, Big Priest, Reno Priest. I don't see why you would run this card. It's just inefficient for what you want to do with any of those decks. So I'm going to give it a 2 for Wild. I'm not as in love with this card, but a lot of people are. But yeah, it's not bad. It's just, I think it's a kind of a greedy card. And lastly, we have the Fortune Teller. It's a 5-mana 3/3 with Taunt, Battlecry, gain +1/+1 for each spell in your hand. You can play it in the spell deck. You can gain a bunch of stats, but, I mean, that just doesn't really matter. It's like, yeah, I mean, you could have like a 5-mana 12/12, I guess. That's pretty cool, Taunt, but realistically, it's probably not going to happen. I don't see this card being much more than, you know, a common pack filler. I'm going to give it a 1 in Standard and Wild. I don't think this is ever a ladder card, but maybe I'll be wrong. Who knows on that. Hope you guys enjoyed the Priest card review. Hopefully you can tune in for the next one. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.